Today on With the First Pick, we have some changes atop our college quarterback rankings through week 7 of the season, and we'll talk about that. We'll also highlight some of our favorite college performances from the non-QBs in a segment we call Pop or Drop. And with week 8 already here, Rick, we'll look ahead to some of the must-see matchups. Hello, Georgia versus Texas. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. This is episode 190, Rick.
Wow.
Before we get going, how many days until the 2025 NFL Draft?
You know, it's always exciting when our number of our shows we didn't surpass how many days are left until the 2025 NFL Draft. But Ryan, if you didn't look over your shoulder, I would tell you there are 189 days left until the 2025 NFL Draft, and your display is looking a little grainy there today. It's not as clear as it usually is. No spinning wheel or anything. Is that just a picture of the numbers?
I tried to streamline it to avoid the hamster wheel mistakes we've had in the past. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure something will go wrong, and luckily you'll be there to point it out. By the way, before we get going, Rick, you might wonder why I'm dressed up like I'm going to church. I'm not going to church. I was trying to hide a little something for you. A little something that came yesterday, a day late.
Let's see. The Spencer shirt.
Got me a Spencer shirt, baby.
Well, you're all in. You were all in last year, and you're continuing to. There may not be, if he plays well for the next couple of weeks before Carr comes back, at least you're the one driving the bus on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Is it going to stay on the road or go off the cliff? We'll find out. So
we'll find out. So all of his success or failures will be depend on how you drive this bandwagon.
Yeah. And we're doing this on Thursday, and they play Thursday night. It'll be another opportunity for Spence to do his thing, but we'll talk about that next week, I'm sure. In the meantime, Rick, and I know this is near and dear to your heart. If you want to support the show, hit the old like button here on YouTube. And as I mentioned, next week, we're going to talk about some of these 5-star submissions. So just leave the name of your favorite FBS or FCS player you want us to talk about, and we'll do it along with a 5-star review to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And we'll do the rest. So next week, we're going to start with some of those names. Excited about that. Oh, my goodness. I forgot to. So that's a little timer I had for you that I was going to use to keep you on point, but I forgot to change it. So let me check that real quick. If you're listening, we're having technical difficulties, which is nothing new. There we go. All right. That out of the way, Rick, let's get to it. There's the 189. We're back on schedule. First things first. WTFP QB rankings through 7 weeks, and there are some changes, baby. So, Rick, my list is pretty much unchanged. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see what it is. I had a few ups and downs near the bottom of my top 10. Rick went crazy, and my Spencer Rattler is your Carson Beck, it feels like.
Yeah.
Because you are riding the Carson Beck train in the same direction as the Spencer Rattler train. Either you're staying on the tracks or you're going right off the bridge. So we're going to talk about we're not going to talk about all these guys because we don't want to be here all day. But let's start with Carson, and then we'll hit a couple of other dudes, and maybe we'll sprinkle in some thoughts in passing about some of the other guys on this list and where they move. But let's start with Carson Beck, because 10 straight quarters now since that first half against Alabama where he looked like Caleb Williams against Notre Dame. He's turning it on. My only pushback, they played Auburn after Alabama, and then last week they played Mississippi State. Mississippi State is not a good football team. What I kept coming back to in that Mississippi State game, he had all day to throw. Now, he made some good throws.
Yeah.
And he made some good throws down the field. He threw a 60-yard ball in the air and made it look easy. I think he still had a couple clubs left in the bag if he wanted to throw a little further than that. So I'm not going to knock the performance. I do want to get your opinion on whether is that a true test based on the fact that he was playing 7-on-7, basically?
Well, okay, let's downgrade him because he had actually good pass protection.
I'm just asking. I'm asking you.
Yeah, you're not, because he did have a lot of time to throw the ball, but it would look like a 7-on-7 drill. I absolutely agree with you 100%. But the accuracy and what you're really noticing this year that I didn't notice last year is the shots down the field. And there's no question about his arm and his ability and accuracy. I think he's a very accurate thrower down the field. And he had some drops, but he puts the ball in places where the receivers have an opportunity to go up and make plays. And I think ever since that first half of the Kentucky game, this guy has been on fire. And I think he's playing the best ball I've seen him play today.
So I should note that last week you had Carson Beck fourth I had him 6. He remains 6 for me. And now on the Chris Spielman WTFP with the first pick QB rankings through week 7, he has jumped all the way to first for you, knocking off Shadur Sanders.
Can I clarify? It's Rick Spielman, not Chris Spielman's rankings. I do not know.
I was wish casting my new host. Did I really call you Chris?
Yeah, you did.
Oh my gosh. I'll call you worse things than that though.
No, I take that as a compliment.
Oh man. All right. So, but anyway, he's gone from Mr. Rick Spielman. If that's what the name you're going to go by, that's fine. He's gone from 4th to 1st. Does that feel like an overreaction, Rick?
Not an overreaction and not an over Rick action. I've always been on his bandwagon. I yelled at you 6 times for having him out of the first round or down where you have him in your top 50 rankings.
That's true.
I'm just saying he's got work to do, but I think he is the best processor besides Nussmeier. He's a better athlete than Nussmeier. He has more than enough arm talent at all levels of the field. And this guy is playing on the biggest stage there is in college football. And I think he continues to perform the way he's performed. Like I said, you can keep him down there at number 5 where you have him right now on your ranking. It's 5 on here. So Ewers is 6.
Oh, thank you. I can't read.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, but when it's all said and done, in 189 days from now, he'll be the first quarterback off the board.
Oh, I was going to do a dollar bet if you want to do that. You want to do a dollar bet on that? I'm sure we've done it already, but double down.
Double down. He will be the first quarterback taken 189 days from now.
Sweet.
Barring any injury.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll give you that. I'll give you that caveat. So I'm taking the field, any quarterback not named Carson Beck, and you're taking Carson Beck as the first quarterback off the board. And how many days?
189 days, Ryan Wilson, to the 2025 NFL draft.
I don't know. I know why you love him. I won't ask you again. Okay. So Carson Beck's 5 for me. Thank you for that. I couldn't read the fine print because my eyes are going. I don't have your hair or your vision, so I got to deal with what I got. I got a Spencer Rattler T-shirt though, so there's that.
They got that going for you today.
Got that going for me. We both agree that Cam Ward is second. Cam Ward had the week off after doing amazing things against Cal. They decided to give him a break. This week, they're playing Louisville. They'll be at Louisville. That's a game you would imagine they'd win, but I thought they would smoke Cal, and that game was a lot closer than it should have been. Third, Jalen Milroe stays the same for me. You drop Jalen a spot, but that's because you could fit Shadur Sanders from 1 to 3 now from last week's ranking to this week's ranking.
Yeah, the reason I did it because I thought Sanders overall played better versus Kansas State than Milroe did. Because Milroe thought I had one of his worst games of the season that I watched this past week against South Carolina.
Interesting. There were some bad throws there, but I think he continues to improve in Kalen DeBoer's offense. You didn't think necessarily he made progress against South Carolina?
I thought it took a step back.
Okay.
In my view.
Okay. All right. Well, that's important. And then, of course, old Nuss Bus there at 5. I have him at 4. He moved up 1 for me because I dropped Ewers, and we'll talk about Ewers in detail in a second. But just a quick footnote on Nuss Bus. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's quarterback. Every week he gets better, and every week I have the conversation with myself, how long can we keep him in the 20 to 32 range before he starts making noise? Because if his name were Carson Beck, and he had the accolades coming into the season that Carson Beck did, he would be the first overall pick playing the way he's playing.
I disagree. I don't think he's better than Beck, but he is, besides Beck, the best operator within the pocket in rhythm and on time and getting through progressions. The other three.
Let's talk about that quickly. What does Nuss Bus not do that Carson's doing that has you? Is it physical or something else?
No, I think that he is not as accurate of a thrower when he has to do off schedule stuff. I think Beck is a little better athlete than Nussmeier is.
Okay.
I'm not saying Nussmeier is a bad athlete, but I would give the athletic ability a notch to Beck over Nussmeier.
Okay. Yep. I have Nuss 4. You have Nuss 5. And then Carson Beck is 5 for me now. And let's talk about Quinn Ewers. We both have him at 6. And he came back after the oblique injury. And, you'll be saying this until the cows come home, I'll imagine. Arch Manning outplayed him in the 2.5 games that he was on the field. I think you said that. Are we forgetting the Michigan game? Because he was dealing, Quinn Ewers was, in that Michigan game against a really good defense. Michigan's offense is nothing to write home about. But he was incredibly rusty in this game here. I mean, there was no two ways about it. He played average at best. This is the Oklahoma game, and they steamrolled them 34-3 regardless. He made some bad throws. He looked a little lost at times in terms of getting through his reads, a little rusty. I'm not going to knock him for it, and we'll find out a lot this week against Georgia. But are we a little too harsh on him having him at 6 here or no?
No, it's the same pattern as we saw last year. You remember he played lights out against Alabama. That was home. Played lights out on the road at Michigan. Gets hurt last year, comes back and does not look the same. And I thought this was the worst game I've seen him in a while.
Not great.
No, he couldn't throw off platform. He wasn't having his feet set. He looked skittish in the pocket. Hopefully he can get back on track. But this was not, even though they won by a lot, and it wasn't even a rival, if you want to call it the Red River rival. It was a arse schlacking.
That's a new one. I like that.
So, but yeah, he did not. So I left him there because none of the other guys below him really played well. I did move Debo's Penn State quarterback.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, to 8 because I thought he actually outplayed Moss, because I thought Miller Moss from USC played horrible this past week, especially from the pocket. So that's why and Dart wasn't very good either in the loss this week. So from Ewers on down, you can throw them all in a bag, right? Because they all had really performances, in my opinion.
Interesting. I thought Jackson Dart, they faced off against LSU and went to overtime, and Nussmeier made some great throws at the end of that game. He just threw a jump ball, and Kyron Lacey came down with it in the overtime, but he still threw it. Kyron Lacey still caught it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to talk about some of these wide receivers. But I thought Jackson Dart had the anti-Cam Beck situation going for him, and that they couldn't block anybody. And he was taking a arse whooping down there, arse slacking down there, as Rick Spielman might say. So I wasn't as hard on Miller Moss or Jackson Dart as you were. I thought Drew Allard did play better. And, Debo campaigned super hard to talk about him and Tyler Warren. So we'll talk about Tyler Warren in a little bit as well. Debo literally called me and he was in tears, Rick, about talking about these guys. So I told him we would do it, even though you were against it. But how do you feel? And a week ago, we had Cooper Tagnon from 247, and you and he both agreed more than me that Drew Allard has a wire loose, I believe is the phrase you guys used. Do you feel like the wire has been reconnected?
Not a wire loose. You can say that, but it's not like a wire loose, like he's a crazy person.
Not crazy, just not connecting on the
it's just
quarterbacking things you want him to do.
I just think he plays by the numbers. And
right. Do your little robot imitation.
Yeah.
Was he less robotic in this game?
A little bit, but and he made some nice throws. That's why I moved him up. But he still waits until the receivers come open. He's not an anticipatory thrower. The hesitation led to the 2 interceptions in this game, and the 2 interceptions were horrid.
Yeah.
Third interception, he was trying to make a play at the end of the game. So it counts on the stats as 3 interceptions, but 2 were legit. 1 was just trying to make a play at the end of the game. I think he's a better athlete than I'm maybe giving him credit for, because he did make some plays for his legs, for his size. But he doesn't make any, like when we watch Sanders or Milroe or Ward, when they have to make off-schedule type throws, they're pretty good at that. In fact, they're better at that than when they're in the pocket, which is another issue we're going to have to discuss down the road, because they're going to have to learn how to play within the pocket and in rhythm on time. Allard, to me, doesn't have that same type of ability to make off-schedule throws.
No, I would agree with that. But he is getting better, so that's what you want to see, progress. And as Debo's pointed out, Allard can return to school if he wants to.
Return to school, Allard.
If you had to take one quarterback today to start on your NFL team in 2027, and you can do whatever you want with them for the next year and a half, Drew Allard or Connor Wegman?
Boy, that's like...
Don't say anything mean.
I'm not saying anything mean. It's like, you want to get hit with Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton?
Stop it. That's not nice. We want everyone to be safe. I'm glad Rick is safe and back in his home.
Yes.
You're huge on Wigman coming into the season. You never were an Allard fan.
No. And Wigman I liked last year, but that was a small sample size. Remember, we only saw 4 games and a big game down in Miami before he got hurt. Then he got hurt again this year. Played much better last week when we talked about him.
Yeah.
And I believe it was against Mississippi State. I can't remember what game it was.
I think so.
But I think both of them, to be honest with you, need to come back and play another year in college.
No, I agree with that. Didn't answer the question, but I agree with your overall sentiment. I'm taking Drew Aller.
That's good.
I'm wearing my Debo shirt, and over that, I'm wearing my Spencer shirt. Rick the Robot. All right, Rick the Robot. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go through this list one more time quickly and just do a pop or drop of the guys that played, and then we'll turn our attention to some of these non-QB performances that we liked and want to talk about. We'll do that right after this.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
All right, Rick. Let's do a little pop or drop on the quarterbacks, and then we'll move on. And we'll start with your list because I know if you start with my list, you'll be angry about that. Carson Beck, pop or drop. I mean, this is a rubber stamp.
Yes.
Pop. I'll give him a pop. He didn't. I mean, if you do a drop on a 7-on-7, that's a bad sign. So he crushed it against no pressure at all. Way to go, Carson Beck. Your T-shirt is in the mail. Cam Ward had the week off. Shedeur Sanders. What do you think? They lost that game.
Drop.
Against Kansas State. Yeah, I don't even want to ask you why. It'll be a 20-minute conversation. I'm giving him a pop.
Okay.
They lost Travis Hunter 8 minutes into the second quarter. And let's talk about this quickly. We won't spend a lot of time on it, but so he got hurt. He caught a pass, ran across the middle, and he got popped on his shoulder, and he came out and didn't return Travis Hunter. And is this an indication that maybe he's better on defense? Because I remember talking to a scout this summer that said less likely to get injured anecdotally because you're trying to hit people instead of getting hit. Is that confirmation of that, or that's just unlucky?
No, that's just because I'm on the field. He's on the field 190,000 snaps a game. So he's getting more opportunities to be exposed to injury. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right, Jalen Milroe.
Drop.
Man, I'm going to give him a pop. That team played terribly, though. They should have lost that game to South Carolina. Can't wrap my brain around
At the end of that game, the onside kick,
that was fun.
I thought it was over. Even though I'm dealing with some natural disasters down here, yet I have my earpiece in and I'm listening to the radio calls just so I can get prepared for these shows.
You were cleaning up the hurricane damage as you were preparing for the show, if I recall correctly.
Yes, I was. So as I'm a dedicated consultant to the show.
I appreciate that. I'm sure your wife appreciates you watching football games while she's trying to clean up the house, but that's another conversation.
Listening, not watching.
I don't know if that's a hair you want to split with your wife, but she's trying to get you to... Listen, honey, I'm not watching. I'm just listening.
I'm listening, hon.
Gus Bus Nussmeier.
I gave him a pop.
Thank you. Finally. Quinn Ewers, drop. I'm not even going to waste time on that. Jackson Dart, you didn't seem crazy about.
Drop.
I'll give him a drop, but he didn't have much of a chance. Drew Aller.
I gave him a pop.
Yeah, look at that, Debo. I agree. Miller Moss, you sound like you weren't crazy about.
Ugh, he was horrible this game, especially from the pocket. Made some throws outside the pocket, but inside the pocket, balls floated on him. I don't know what was the matter with him, but I gave him a drop.
Okay, and again, we'll see what his size is because that's going to determine a lot of his future in terms of when he gets drafted. And Will Howard, Ohio State, we'll talk about his wide receivers in a moment here, but what do you think about his performance against Oregon?
Neutral.
Okay. I see. You got to plead the fifth on that one. Kyle McCord, who you guys, and by you guys, I mean you and Coop, aren't fans of. I'm driving the Kyle McCord. I got a lot of people on my Spencer Rattler bus. He's another guy on there. I'm going to pop.
Yeah, okay, good.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm great with that. He needs to come back to school too.
What are you talking about? He's like 28. You can't. I think it's the senior.
Who, McCord?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
All right. I'll let our crack staff research department check on that, but I'm pretty sure he is.
Hey, the guy from Utah is coming back for his 8th year.
That's true. Cam Rising is 40.
Yeah.
I went to high school with Cam Rising, just so we're clear. And he's coming back to play again. And I think they have a tight end who's either 29 or 30. So, yeah, I guess you can play as long as you want.
Make the NIL money while you can, because you're not
Make
going
it while you can.
You're not going to make it in the NFL.
Hey, let me ask you this quickly. You played for Southern Illinois. You're Saluki. You won the national title game as a senior, I believe. I played baseball at William & Mary. I was terrible. But my question is this: back in our day, how much would you have gotten paid NIL wise if that had been a thing back then?
I think gas back then was like $1.50 a gallon.
No, gas was well under $1 back then. Not even, unless it was the gas crisis that was for a minute.
Yeah. I think we could have got some certificates to the local burger joint. We may have gotten like free burgers for three free burgers.
And here's the thing: you would have been happy about it, right?
Oh, I would have been ecstatic about it. Yeah.
Now, if we had like an extra $15 a month or a week allowance, that would have been a huge deal.
My job in the summers, besides when I worked on the pig farm, if I did go back home to work in the summers, I was a manual labor for construction guys. So I mixed the mud. I set up the scaffolding so they can build the houses. I carried shingles up to the roof. I carried drywall in, everything from A to Z. So, but my boss was very generous. So my bonus for working my rear end off during the summers was he would send me $20 a month.
That's actually really nice.
Yeah. So I had I got a check for $20 a month when I was in college, which I thought was I hit the jackpot.
So you actually had an NIL deal through the construction company.
Yeah, but my NIL deal, I mean, I have a broken back right now. I have a torn pec. My knees are shot.
So what you're saying is it was worth it.
It was worth every penny of that $20 a month.
The beer money was worth it back in college.
I was in the library studying every night.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that. I remember reading about that in Sports Illustrated when they did that feature on you and your brother. Although I think you said that you and your brother both were relatively not party animals, or is that a story you made up?
No, I'm I go to bed 9:30 every night. I never went out much, and I wasn't never a big party guy. I wasn't really into that scene.
And the one time you had 2 Michelob Ultras at the combine, you were late to our 8 a.m.
Oh, God, that threw me for a loop. I'll never do that again. On ice too.
That was high comedy. Yeah, don't forget. Yeah. Producer Claire is with us today, which is awesome. And Claire, you think Rick is funny. Just so you know, Rick drinks Michelob Ultra only. Unless it's not there, then I think you'll drink a Corona.
Yeah, as long as I'm drinking it in a large glass of ice.
And that's the kicker. He drinks beer, fine, in a large glass with as much ice as humanly possible that physics will allow to fit in the glass. All right, so
hey, Debo, is Claire allowed to think? What's she think about that? Is she allowed to talk on the show? We haven't had Claire talk on the show.
Yeah, Claire has permission to speak.
Claire doesn't want to talk.
Where'd Claire go? Claire
I'm still here.
Oh, there.
Claire, if you were sitting at a dinner at a work dinner and you looked across the table to the corner there and you saw some weirdo drinking beer out of a glass full of ice, what would just be your initial reaction to yourself? You wouldn't say it out loud necessarily. What would be your first thought?
I think the ice would be very weird. Sorry, Rick.
Oh, Rick, you lost Claire 2 shows in. All right, fair enough.
Claire, I felt very good about myself coming onto the show, and you just are tearing me down. It's like it's brutal, Claire.
Let's be real. She's
I
not
don't
the first
know
person.
if I can really go on with the show anymore. My self-esteem is out. I have no self-esteem left.
Now you know how I feel doing the show.
Okay, Claire, just so you know, I'm fine.
I was going to say, I said, now you know how I feel with my self-esteem with my partner through almost 2 years. This show's almost 2 years old, Rick. November next month,
isn't it?
That's wild. We'll have a big party.
You got a gold watch yet or no?
Yeah, it might coincide with the 200th episode, so that'll be a big parade. All right, let's get to some of these non-QB popper drops for week 7. And basically, the list I sent Rick was the wide receivers that caught passes from these quarterbacks we just talked about on the WTFP college football quarterback rankings through week 7 list, and one unfortunate young man who had a very tough evening, cornerback Denzel Burke. We've talked about him in the past, talked about him over the summer. He's gotten some first-round buzz. Rick's talked about how he got better after a bad 2022 to 2023. And his game against Oregon was tough sledding. So let's start with Denzel Burke, Rick, who had to go up against Evan Stewart, the wide receiver out of Oregon, and also Tez Johnson, their other wide receiver. And both players beat him deep on occasion. I thought he looked a little stiff at times getting out of his break coming downhill, which concerned me a little bit. So I don't know if he's banged up or if it's something else, but it felt like the previous version of Denzel Burke we talked about when it didn't make sense that he wasn't playing at the level we expected him to. I don't know what to make of it. One game is all it is. He can certainly bounce back from it, but they haven't played anyone yet, so we'll see what happens over the course of the season going forward. But what were your thoughts? Because I had a lot of questions.
Yeah, I went back and watched all the games, and the one thing that popped out on the games is I think he's very quick twitched when he's in off coverage to close to routes underneath. I think Oregon did a phenomenal job because a lot of those that he got beat were with a little bit of a double move.
Yep.
And he is very susceptible to jumping on a route because he wants to make a play. He made a great interception in the Akron game, jumping a route. The touchdown he gave up at the back of the end zone, I mean, that was just a great throw and great catch, too, because he was in good position there in the red zone. But the other two, where the hesitation or the stiffness that you think you saw was him squatting and getting ready to jump on a route, and they double moved him. And I think that was game planned, and that exposed him. So I think that you'll measure him by how he responds after a game like this.
Now, I don't know if you had a chance to speak with him yet or not. And if not, are you going to give him the Terrion Arnold conversation, which last year Terrion had a slow start of the season. You sat down with him and gave him the truth, and he took it. And he took it as well as I would imagine anyone would take that sort of criticism, and he bounced back and became a first-round pick.
You're trash.
Again, that's Terrion Arnold recounting what Rick told him to his face, probably with a large glass of beer with ice in it.
Yeah, that's what I do when I walk around campus.
Really throw them up their game.
Yeah, I want to set a fine example for these young men coming up through the draft. I would say this is that I thought he's played pretty good this year.
Okay.
All the other games, the Michigan State game and other games that I watched, I thought he carried on from what he did last year. This was the one hiccup where Terrion Arnold last year, the first 4 or 5 games, he was very inconsistent and then turned it around. So I don't think you're categorizing it the right way.
Okay.
Now, if he was playing like dog doo-doo through these first 5 games, then yeah, maybe you would sit down and have a chit chat with him. But he's actually been pretty good up until this Oregon game.
All right, for this game, the Oregon game, pop or drop?
Well, I mean, I have to give him a drop.
Okay, I agree with that. And in terms of, is he still a top 40 guy for you, or?
Yeah. You are like one of those instant evaluator guys, the mainstream media. The guy has one bad game. It's like Carson Beck all of a sudden is going to go in the 5th round. Now it's like, Des Burke, I'd get him out of there. He's maybe someone will sign him as a college free agent after what he did.
That's what I was thinking. I do get dizzy with all the popping and dropping I do.
Yeah, over Rick actions, you've got your own over Ryan actions. Very, 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 very seriously. You overreact to a lot of things.
Yeah, my follow-up was going to be, do you think he gets drafted? But apparently you do. Okay.
Dollar back drafted?
No. No, of course not. I would trade for Mac Jones before I would draft Carson Beck in the 8th round. All right, one bad game. Let's hope Denzel bounces back. Rick has all the confidence in him, and he has a lot of good tape. Just got to get better. All right, let's move on to the wide receivers. We'll start with those same Oregon wide receivers. Evan Stewart. I had a lot of questions about him coming in. I think you and Mike Renner liked him a little more than I did over the summer. I don't know if any of us loved him, but he played pretty good. This is the best game he's played. And one of the issues I had with him was contested catches coming into the season. He made some tough catches. He obviously can run. I was impressed with the way he played, and we can team him up with Tez Johnson, his teammate as well. Another smallest receiver who can run. One of the things that stuck out with me with Tez is that he does a good job of setting up his routes, and that he's not necessarily running at a 10 all the time. He'll run at a 5 and then get into the top of his route and turn it on and then create separation. Again, going back to the Denzel Burke, a big play down the field on the right side there. He ain't running through arm tackles, but that's not his game. But I thought they both had outstanding performances. Evan Stewart plays mostly outside. Tez plays mostly inside.
Yeah, I'm going to go. You ready? Because I'm going to.
Going to comp us up?
Yeah, I'm going to knock your socks off here.
All right, who are you going with first?
Evan, he's a small slot receiver, but the speed and the elusiveness and the 0 to 60 miles per hour, and he hits that acceleration quick. And then the one-hand grab on a green route was ridiculous, and made the explosive plays. The only thing is he's small and he's not strong. So this game, watching him, ready? You know who popped in my head when I was watching him?
I'm going to guess and you get angry. Or do you want me to guess or you just want to tell me?
No, go ahead. You guess.
He's not as thick. Percy Harvin?
God, why are we doing that? What am I doing?
I asked you. I warned you. All right, what do you got?
Tank Dell.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Can you see
the strongest Tank?
Tank wasn't strong. He was just fast and quick. And
I thought Tank was more of a good contact balance bowling ball type player. You don't think that?
Tank was little. Tank was almost.
He's little, but he's not slight of frame.
Boy, you need to take some memory pills or something because your
memory pills.
is
all right. Tank Dell. That's high praise. Tank won the 3rd round. I actually had a day 2 grade on Evan Stewart, middle of day 2. You okay with that?
Yeah, I am. Very good with that.
What about Tez Johnson?
Tez is longer, but he's thin.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think I was trying to go through the Rolodex on him. He won that 50-50 ball over Denzel Burke in the back of the end zone. He is a better route runner and to me a little more explosive, but the smoothness of a Troy Franklin is what stuck out to me, but with a quicker twitch and better route runner.
And I think Troy, if I recall correctly, was early day 3. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I had him as a day 3 guy, closer to the top than the bottom.
This was his most productive game. He hasn't been as productive early in the season. So, but I gave both these guys pops.
And we haven't talked about him for over a month, but let's talk about him real quick. And just like 10 seconds is enough. You going to give Dylan Gabriel a pop? Because that dude was slinging it.
Yeah, he is. That was his best game I've seen him.
Little Tua Tagovailoa to getting the ball out quickly and throwing with anticipation.
I would say that, but he is small.
But no, 100%.
When he is on time and in rhythm, which he was this game, this was the biggest game of the season, and he probably played his best game in the brightest lights. So that he popped.
All right. Good job, Dylan. You get a pop even though you weren't on the rundown. Next up, let's go across the ball to Emeka Ibuka. He's a big slot at this point. He plays a lot inside. He had 10 targets, all 10 targets, 10 catches, 93 yards, did have a touchdown. Big body, fluid mover, natural hands away from his body, has good contact balance, runs through arm tackles. He's not, I'm trying to think, because you compare him to guys like Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba, guys that came out of there previously. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a different conversation. I think he's bigger. I don't know if he's as fast as Garrett, but he's more reliable, I think. It's hard to find a comp for him, but I like him, and I think he's a top 40 guy.
He is he's maybe 6'1". He's about 210. So he is well-defined, well-built, really good lower body. You're seeing the 2022 version of him, but a more mature player. So watching him all year, he is really excelled in similar to Smith and Jigba on route ability, but I think he's faster. Excellent.
Oh, you think he's faster because Jackson ran a 4.5 when we were at his pro day.
Yeah, I think he's going to be faster than Smith and Jigba. So and he's a reliable hands catcher, and he's very smart on a savvy veteran receiver for a rookie going to be coming in. So my comp to him, I think, was a little bit Chris Olave more than anything.
Oh, and I forgot about Chris. Oh my God, you're gonna hate my comp for him because he plays inside. He's big. This guy didn't run well, but he plays fast. Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I don't care. Claire will love it. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
He's faster than Amon. Now,
well, yeah, but Amon-Ra plays fast. Amon-Ra ran 4.6.
St. Brown does play fast, but this guy's going to run a lot faster than St. Brown. But he's that polished up a route runner and reliable hands catcher.
And that's sort of, he's not as tough as Amon-Ra, but he's in that category of toughness. I think he's, he can play in the middle of the field. He'll take some licks and then he'll get back up and run through some guys.
He's a climber in this draft process.
And that image that, if you're watching on YouTube, that was the touchdown that he caught on a good throw from Will Howard, but a nifty little route. I think it was a little wheel route from the slot. Caught it and beat the cornerback to the end zone. So, yeah, I'm glad to see him finally playing well. He was banged up last year, so we didn't get a real chance to talk about him or watch him. And that's an example of a guy going back to school and helping himself, Rick.
Yes, it is.
All right. Let's go to LSU Ole Miss. Let's start with Trey Harris, the Ole Miss wide receiver. 10 targets, 7 catches, 102 yards, all in the first half. He was injured the week before this game in South Carolina, so he missed the second half of that game. Came back, and then he got injured again, left early in the third quarter, but he did plenty of damage, and he could have had 180 yards had he caught that first throw from Jackson Dart. That was a great throw from Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
I can't believe you dropped him. You can't catch the ball for him, Rick. Hit
No.
Trey Harris right in the hands. But I'll just say this. Trey Harris is a go get the ball down the field guy. He's big. He's strong. Good hands, except for that one that went right through him. I struggle with the Ole Miss offense trying to figure out who these guys are. We talked about Jonathan Mingo last year as a rookie struggling. He's been a little bit better this year. But I give him credit for playing hurt and playing as well as he did hurt, even though LSU's defense is hit or miss. But I thought this was a pop game for him.
Yeah, I don't think he's a speed guy. He's more of a big possession type guy that is a very good route runner. The drop, but the incredible catch in the end zone over the DB.
Oh,
Taking
we.
the ball off the DB's back was great concentration. Where my issue is with him now, if the ball is above his waist, you see it on all these hitches because he has the hitch route down better than anyone I've ever seen because he runs 150 probably in practice and 160 in the games. But he's a natural snatch and pluck hands guy. But the one thing I did notice down the field, he has a tendency to try to body catch instead of use his length and his hands to go up and pluck the ball. And that drop was because he was trying to body catch it. So but he extends the catch on everything else. So that's one thing. If I had to put a nitpick on him, I think just a little bit better catching the ball above his outside his body when it's down the field.
Day 2?
Yes.
Okay, I agree with that. Good. I'm going to give him a pop for this because he was banged up even though he dropped that big ball early.
Yep, I will give him a pop.
All right, let's talk about this guy. I was excited to – oh, man. I had seen the name. I haven't watched a lot of Kyron Lacey other than broadcast, so I was very excited to go back and watch him. I'm going to watch a couple games just because why not? Man, this dude, I don't know how fast he is down the field. We don't see him running a lot of deep routes and creating separation, but 0 to 25 yards, no one gets out of their break with more urgency than Kyron Lacey does. He snatches the ball out of the air. He is a problem if it's a man coverage and he's running away from you. And I say he doesn't create separation down the field. He had that high point catch to end the game in overtime against Ole Miss. He didn't beat the defender, but he went up over him. I loved watching Kyron Lacey play. Again, I want to see how fast he is. If he runs a 3.9, if he runs a 3.9 like our guy, or 4.9 like our guy, I was thinking about this. Remember Marcus Jack Saint, the Georgia kid?
Yeah, I liked the kid, and Hutchinson too from Iowa State I was a big fan of his coming out
because we didn't know how fast Rosemary Jack Saint was. That's his name, Rosemary Jack Saint. We didn't know how fast he was, and then he ran like a 4.9 or something, and he was undrafted. He had a good Senior Bowl. He never dropped a pass at Georgia his llast season there. So I want to see Kyron Lacey run a 4.5, and then I'll be fine with it. But everything else he does, I was really impressed with how he played.
Yeah, he's quicker and fast, strong. He does an excellent job using his size to shield defenders away from the ball to make the catches he makes. Very strong hands. He's a physical runner after the catch, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to outrun a lot of angles. But he's more, to me, possession than he is speed guy, depending on what you're looking for.
I had him as a day 2. I had him as a day 2 guy.
I have him borderline right now between day 2 and day 3.
All right. I'm going to ask you Kyron Lacey and you tell me who you're taking first. Kyron Lacey or Evan Stewart?
I'm always going to go with the speed. Stewart.
Okay. I would take Kyron. Kyron or Tez Johnson?
I'm taking speed guy. Tez.
Okay. I don't. You probably think he's faster than in a Mecca, so you're taking a Mecca over him.
Yes.
What about Kyron Lacey over Trey Harris?
That one's I may lean towards Trey.
Oh, geez. All right. Let's do a dollar bet here. I'm going to say that Kyron Lacey gets drafted. And now, look, if he runs a 4.9, I'm going to lose $1, but I'm willing to take that bet. Will you take this bet? Kyron Lacey, I'm taking Kyron Lacey gets drafted before Tez Johnson and Trey Harris. Both.
Yeah, I'll take that dollar bet.
All right. Mark it down, Debo. There it is. Rick's beer money going to my cause. All right. Finally, in terms of these 9 quarterbacks who balled out, I talk about Debo's guy, Tyler Warren, the tight end / fullback / wide receiver / quarterback / punter out of Penn State. We talked about him earlier in the year after the Bowling Green game. He was just getting warmed up. 18 targets against USC. 21 targets, 18 receptions, 226 yards, 1 touchdown. You think he was tired on the plane ride home, Rick?
He probably slept on that 6-hour plane ride back across to the other coast.
Now, you talked about Drew Aller playing better. What are Drew Aller's numbers if Tyler Warren isn't in that game? He might have thrown for negative yards.
Yeah, no, he would be probably off my top 10 list. This kid saved Aller for me.
I think when we talked about Tyler over the summer, I at least had him as an early day 3 guy. That's changed, and you actually scolded me on Tuesday because I didn't have him inside my top 50. So I'm taking that to mean you think he has a chance to be a day 2 pick at this point.
Just because of the versatility he showed in this game.
Yeah.
And he may not, I mean, he's fast enough, but he's not, Kyle Pitts type athlete. But this guy did everything this game. I mean, he actually won the game for Penn State, converted a first down on a quarterback sneak, completed a pass, although it was an ugly pass. He's a little robotic, not as robotic as Aller, Debo, when he throws the ball, but that's part of the Penn State, whatever they drink up there at Penn State in the water.
We're not going to be invited to Penn State, by the way.
He caught a lot of short, quick hitting throws. This guy is just a football player. So
the touchdown he caught was on the trick play where they had Drew Aller lined up at wide receiver because they don't trust him.
And he was at center.
By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, the picture we have of Tyler Allen Dragon, number 7, that's Kamari Ramsey, the safety from USC. We'll be talking about him because I watched a little bit of him when I was doing my top 50. He was on my top. That guy is a dude. The other safety for the other team, Jalen Reed, who I'm sure Debo's wearing his T-shirt now as well. That's another kid that can play, and we'll be talking about him. He had a PBU that led to one of the interceptions from Miller Moss, I believe. So they both got involved. They both were making plays as well, but there's only one Tyler Warren on that field, Rick. Do you want to hear my comp for Tyler?
Yeah, because I have one too.
So originally it was Payne Durham, and I'm coming off of that.
No, God, that's so bad.
Well, listen to this. You're going to love this. Because Tyler is not, you talked about it. I mean, excuse me, Tyler is not Kyle Pitts, athletic-wise.
No.
You know who he is?
Who?
I'm going to give you some hints and see if you can guess. He was drafted 2003, I believe, out of Utah State.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember 2003.
Hopefully I got both those things wrong. They might be right. They might be both wrong. Chris Cooley.
No.
You love it.
No, I hate it.
What do you got?
Well, we give our listeners some update instead of going back. Yeah, this guy reminds me of Jim Brown. Well, who listens to this and actually got an opportunity to watch Jim Brown? Maybe some did out there.
My favorite Spielman, Rick Spielman, probably.
All right, you ready for my comp?
Hey, let me guess. So give me a. How long ago did he play? Is it recent?
Yes, recent. Within the last 3 years, 2 years. I try to keep updated on my comps, so people
don't say Penn Senate.
No, so people can get a picture of what we're actually talking about.
All right, so you hate Chris Cooley. Who do you got?
Tucker Kraft.
Oh, you think he's that good an athlete?
Yes, and Kraft wasn't as athletic as Musgrave, but you remember Green Bay took the 2 tight ends that year.
You don't want to know what my note was for Tyler Kraft coming out.
What?
I said I saw a little Travis Kelce in him.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, you're kind of right.
You didn't hate that. Okay.
Oh, well,
that's high praise to Tucker Kraft. Okay.
I don't think he's as athletic as Travis Kelce.
No, he's not. But he was dominating at FCS, so I gave him the benefit. But you're right, he's not Luke Musgrave either, athletic wise. So, but he's contributing.
Yeah,
Tyler Warren can do everything.
With Musgrave hurt a couple of weeks ago, he had his best game of his career. I can't remember who they played. Was it? Can't think off the top of who they played a couple of weeks ago, but he had a big game, and he's becoming a part of that offense, especially with Musgrave's durability concerns, which goes back to Musgrave had durability concerns when he was in college. That's just so you know, just keep that in the back of your pocket.
I will say the things that the injury stuff, you've said that for a while. I didn't believe you because it's the Amarius Mims things we come back to. He did play last week, but that was an injury issue. So injuries are an issue, and short quarterbacks, two things I've learned during the history of this podcast that we have to keep our eye on. Fair enough. All right, so day 2 for Tyler Warren as we sit here. The tight end class is wide open after Colson Loveland, too, in terms of draft. So
yep,
make their case for tight end, too. Big game for him. I don't know if there could be a bigger game. We'll see. Great job, Tyler. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back and wrap things up by looking ahead to week 8. Some games we're interested in seeing and what we want to see happen out of those games. Talk about that right after this.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
All right, Rick, week 8 is upon us. We're taping this on Thursday, and week 8 started yesterday for being technical about it. But a couple games I'm going to throw at you, and I'll give you a name or two that I'm interested in watching. If you have any names, you feel free to add those as well. Number 6, Miami at Louisville. They had the week off last week. Miami did, so no Cam Ward. We'll see Cam Ward again. Another guy that potentially we could be talking about a week from now, and he's had a really good season, was good last year, wide receiver Xavier Restrepo.
Yep.
That dude just makes plays. He's a possession receiver. I haven't watched him closely yet, but I'm interested to see that. So that's a name I want to get a closer peek at. I don't know if there's anyone off the top of your head that you're can't wait to see in that game.
No, I'm anxious to see Cam coming back off a bye week to see if he can pick off where he did, in that Cal game. And again, it's another opportunity for him to go into a good football team, Louisville. I think does have a good football team, to see if he can shine like he did against Cal 2 weeks ago. All
right. Next up, Alabama, number 7, at Tennessee, number 11. So, we talked about Nico Iamaleava last week with Coop Patagna. He's the freshman quarterback. We'll be talking about him in years to come, so that'll be fun. James Pierce, the defender, the edge rusher there, he could potentially give Alabama some problems. Who are some Alabama dudes other than Jalen Milroe that you want to see do some stuff?
Yeah, I want the guys that have really popped out to me, and I can't recall their names right now, and I apologize for that. But they're 2 linebackers at Alabama, number 0 and number 11. I think may end up being the best 2 linebackers coming out in this year's draft. They're both long, they're both athletic, they can play in all 3 phases of the game, and those 2. We're going to have to talk about as we go through this podcast, but they've really, really stepped it up. So
Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson.
Those 2, put stars by their names because they've been playing very, very well through the season. I think those are the 2 guys on defense, and not the kid. And I don't have the Alabama roster. The number 5, the receiver. Also has started to pop in some of these games, is why everybody's talking about, the young freshman number 2 that we
Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah. But Bernard is another guy that was a transfer in.
Do you know where he transferred from?
Did he come in from Washington?
I'd have to double check. I saw he had transferred by his name.
Yeah, but he was a transfer guy that's really starting to pop a little bit on the tape as well.
It's funny.
And I think the other one is the left guard Booker is really having a very solid year and probably should be the first interior lineman off the board this year.
Washington transfer Jeremy Bernard. You got that one right. What about Brailsford, the center, who also came over from Washington?
Yeah, I think he needs to come back right now another year.
Okay.
He's an undersized guy, a little bit Cam. What's your undersized center, Debo, at Philadelphia? Came out of Nebraska.
Cam Jurgens.
Jurgens, yeah.
You could just gone with the NC State center you drafted in Minnesota.
Yeah. He's actually playing really good right now. And Darren Saul and O'Neal, those guys are having a pretty good year up there.
What's his name so I can give him his full credit?
Who's that?
The NC State center you drafted.
Oh, Bradbury.
Right. Bradbury. Shout out to Ray Bradbury, science fiction writer. All right.
No, it's Garrett Bradbury, just for your knowledge.
Not Ray Bradbury. Next up, Michigan, 24th in the country against the Illini, number 22. I think the Michigan conversation outside of Colston Loveland is mostly on defense.
Yep, all of the defensive guys.
Kenneth Grant, that guy's fun.
Yeah, he's climbing up boards, I hear, on the outside. He's having a
He was in my – I think I had him going in the first round of my mock draft, obviously in my top 50. He plays alongside Mason Graham on the defensive line. We know about Will Johnson, the cornerback there.
How about we talked about the edge rusher a couple weeks ago.
Talked about the edge rusher.
Number
the running
0.
backs.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got some dudes. They always do. Illinois. I don't know anyone off the top of my head that we have talked about yet.
No, I think they're all Saturday guys, if there is any, but I haven't gotten that deep into the because I still have, Ryan, just so you know, Wilson, 189 days until the 2025 NFL draft. So we have to know all these guys.
All of them will be here before you know it. Next up, Colorado's at Arizona. Arizona's been disappointing this year in terms of wins and losses. We know about Fafita, the quarterback. He's undersized. We've talked about him. Tedderell McMillan, the wide receiver. Someone else to keep an eye on in terms of Arizona on the defensive side of the ball is Tacario Davis, who's a long, like 6'3" plus cornerback. So that's someone to watch there. And then Colorado, obviously, we talk about Shador. Travis Hunter's supposed to be healthy, so that could be fun, Rick. Travis Hunter versus T-Mac.
Yeah, because I think besides him and Travis Hunter, I don't know if they do have another prospect on that roster besides those two.
Yeah, there's some wide receivers in Colorado that might be day 3 guys that we'll get around to. Their left tackle is a freshman. He's doing okay, but he's not coming out, obviously. And then Shador, of course. All right, LSU at Arkansas. I'll just say this. I meant to mention it during the Garrett Nussmeier conversation. Emory Jones, the right tackle, has been underwhelming. I don't know if he's banged up or what. He hasn't played well. I'm of the opinion that maybe he should think about coming back. There's no rush to come out, is there?
No. And yeah, he from what we saw last year, we had him pretty high going in the first round and maybe even better than Campbell.
Yep.
Some people thought, but I think that through what we've seen so far today, Campbell has solidified himself as a first round pick, in my opinion. So Emory, I don't know if he's solidified himself as a first round pick yet.
Right. He's a right tackle.
Some may be looking at him as a guard as well.
And that's the other thing. So Emory currently plays right tackle for LSU. Will Campbell is the left tackle. And who it's so funny how you talked about Ashton Jennings sort of standing straight up. Will Campbell has the weirdest pre-snap stance of any left tackle that I can remember. It reminds me a little bit of Andrew Whitworth, but he's having a good season. So more power to him.
Is that your comp, Andrew Whitworth?
It could be pre-snap. We'll see what post-snap ends up being.
That's without even thinking about it. That may be your best comp you've had since we've been doing this show.
Maybe we should do just free association. The first name that comes to mind, that should be my comps going forward.
That's usually what I do when I'm watching guys.
Yeah, you've got a little more experience than me. Kyron Lacey, we talked about just a moment ago. Garrett Nussmeier, of course. Will Campbell. Harold Perkins is out for the season with the ACL injury, which is unfortunate. We'll see what that means for him. On Arkansas, we talked about Taylon Green, the big quarterback. He was banged up before, so this will be an opportunity for him to prove us wrong in terms of the last game we watched. And they also have Landon Jackson, the edge rusher we talked about over the summer, that I'm very interested to see how he performs. He's had a pretty good start to his season.
Yes. Yeah, no, he has an opportunity to keep creeping up draft boards too, because he's long, he's a pretty good athlete. He's bigger, so he's not one of those 245-pound speed guys.
He's calling you now.
So
he's 6'7", 281 officially.
That's James Franklin calling me. I'm telling him to get off Aller.
Debo got him on the bat phone because he was angry with all the things you were saying about him. All right, and finally, before we get out of here, talked about it at the top, number 5, Georgia at number 1 Texas. First of all, who's going to win that game? Tell me that. It's in Austin.
I'm going to say Georgia. I'm going to go with Georgia.
So, of course, I don't know why I even asked. You think Carson Beck's going to outplay Quinn Ewers, I'm supposing?
I'll bet $1 so we can start seeing who actually wins that Beck is better than Ewers this game.
How are you measuring that?
We can look at whatever way you want to measure it. How about?
All right, so let's do yards, total yards.
No, I mean, you're doing it by stats, so I can not even watch the game, and you can say, oh, yeah, Ewers threw like 20 more yards than he did.
I love your impression of me. All right, here's what we'll do. We'll do it by
who pops or drops. Just simple.
We'll pop or drop it. We'll watch the tape.
Watch the tape and tell me, watching the tape, regardless of the yards or whatever, who played better at the position this game.
Fair enough. We'll do that, and then Debo and Claire can be the tiebreakers, because I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Carson won no matter what.
No, Claire, make sure you watch that game this weekend so you can give an opinion when we come back next Thursday and do this show.
And feel free to enjoy it with a glass of
boy, is
beer
Claire
and ice.
Yeah, she's kind of taken over Debo's voice on the show. She's coming out of her show a little bit. I can see that, Claire. Keep coming, girl.
So Jalen Walker, linebacker out of Georgia.
Like him.
He's a dude. So let me ask you this. Do you think the 2 Alabama linebackers you just spoke about, you'd like them to go higher than Jalen, or we're too early in that conversation?
Too early in that conversation. But at this point, I do.
Okay, because Jalen will hit you in the mouth.
Yeah, he does. But
I like the way that young man plays.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to see it. I got to go back and look because Stutzman from Oklahoma, I think, was our top linebacker, but I think he's been a little bit inconsistent with the missed tackles this year.
Yeah.
So he may be dropping a little bit. These other 3 that we just mentioned may be climbing above him. So
yep, I didn't go back and watch him against Texas last week, but we'll get around to that, I'm sure. Also, Michael Williams, excuse me. We'll see. He's been banged up a little bit this year. The interior defensive lineman, or the edge rusher, I should say, for Georgia. Kelvin Banks Jr., the left tackle, who I like a little bit better than Will Campbell. I think you think I'm crazy on that one, but he's had a good start to his season.
Oh, I like Banks. I just thought, I didn't know the length of Banks, if that becomes an issue or not, till we get the measurables. But he's a good football player. He's going to be a starter day 1 in the league, wherever he ends up.
And that Texas right tackle is someone else we should keep an eye on as well, Cameron Williams, who some of the media folks like him a little bit better than I do. I have him as a day 2 guy right now, but he has an opportunity to help himself in this game against Georgia for sure. Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver we've talked about in the past, who's had a good start to his season for Texas. And I'm trying to think, is there anyone else? Oh, Malachi Starks, the safety for Georgia.
Safety from Georgia. Yeah, who's having a good year.
Yeah, so we got a lot of dudes in this game as well. All right. You're picking Georgia to win. I'll pick Texas to win. I think Quinn Ewers is going to outplay Carson. And I'm going to make this bold prediction. Next week, Rick Spielman will have Quinn Ewers as his number 1 quarterback.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Claire, just so you know, if we're doing these dollar bets, I'm betting on Georgia to outright win at Texas. The odds are probably 40 to 1. So that means if I put $1 on and Georgia wins, then I win $40. Just so if you didn't understand betting, because I sure in the heck don't understand it apparently, but I have an opportunity to win $40 from Ryan Wilson if Georgia wins.
The odds aren't 40 to 1. And as Debo has noted previously, I'm somehow worse at betting than you are, which is one of the worst things anyone's ever said to me. But wild times we were living in. All right, Rick, that's it. Let's get the weekend started. Watch some college football, watch some NFL. Episode 190 in the books. 10 away, Rick. That might coincide pretty close to our 2-year anniversary. So get your party hats ready. As always, thanks to my guy Rick. Thanks to Debo and Claire for producing. Thanks to all you guys who watch and listen and comment. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.